Well, thanks for joining all of you worldwide, whether it's evening, morning, or just middle in the night. Today in this webinar, I want to talk about the joy of experimenting and using Nuke the creative way. My name is Jan Borda. I'm professionally working in VFX for more than 17 years. Thanks to Foundry and Nuke, I'm today more than happy that I can make a living out of doing colorful images and work in film business. I'm working at Macavision's VFX department. Macavision is part of Accenture Interactive. We are one of Germany's leading CGI players with a worldwide operating network. We have here in Stuttgart a beautiful work environment and a really experienced team. There are Emmy and VS winners among us and so much lovely people. A special thanks goes out to our art department for supplying me with beautiful artwork for this presentation. Thank you to Christian Leitner, Adam Wesirski and Felix Flatt. And a thanks to Artbreeder I used to generate some nice AI-based images for this webinar. Nuke is something special, something magical, that gives me the possibility to draw my visions. What I love is starting a shot and to see it as a puzzle task or a riddle. I love these nice moments when Bildglück happens. These are the little happy accidents when something completely unplanned just materializes in front of your eyes. This process of creativity. What is creativity? It's being kissed by a muse. You really can't force an idea to form immediately. If you pressure on it, nothing might happen. It's suddenly there. You hear a word, you see an image, you smell, and it's there. First of all, how to get this inspiration. For me, there is this positive view of things. This makes it easier to approach the world openly. The stuff you focus on is the stuff you will receive. If your thoughts are about failing or succeeding, what do you think will happen in each case? What is Nuke for you? Some might say it's a 32-bit node-based compositing tool in true linear. Yeah, that's true, but it is a beautiful toy in a big child's hand too. The words you choose immediately change your attitude to the things. What is compositing to you? For me, compositing is like a dance. Last year, we were asked to make some telescope lens POV through a magical lens. The director just let us all the creative freedom. It was a child's movie and I remembered myself on these little colorful kaleidoscopes. Do you know? Actually, it was pretty easy to adopt this idea and think the director loved it right away. We start with the map, and this map we distort with the factor of 1 to 6. We need to do a texture map for us where we have this 6 times besides each other. I used a contact sheet and they're always mirroring each side. I use this as a texture on a sphere. I just made a sphere now 6-sided. This helps me for adjusting. The second sphere I just transformed to the side that it matches, and the next one I keep on rotating it always in 60 degrees around the pivot just in the center. So with this I easily can, you see, just rotate it around and getting it back. So just adjusting them, getting all together. It's pretty hard now on my trackpad using Nuke on my MacBook. Okay, so here we have the kaleidoscope. And if we go back on our base texture and we start to move it, a moment, update my screen, thank you. So we just start rotating it or scaling. You suddenly get this beautiful floral textures, you know, from a kaleidoscope. Ain't this beautiful? Okay, at this part you see it's a little bit edgy. You just need to make your sphere again like 30-sided. Now you see it's looking quite nice. So what I like is to bake my transforms, especially if they are sometimes very complicated. I just do an ST map and I just plug it in and go through all this texture, contact sheet, 3D sphere setup, use it as a ST map. And you see I have it like here, and I even can pre-render my ST map. You can use this solution if you have weird undistort, redistort, move it here, move it there, and something breaks your concatenation. So bake your transforms using the ST map. To approach creativity, don't fix on a special way, like it has to be like this or that because it has always been like this. Keep always space for your alternatives. We all know our nodes like the eye distort or the vector blur, but have you ever tried to use 10 eye distorts in a row like a stacked nodes? So let's see what happens. So we start with this image and we just take a pretty standard noise texture where red and green has just a little bit different Z. We put it as a eye distort map, and actually if you eye distort, you notice you suddenly, if you're going too far, you punch some holes into. But have you ever tried to do your eye distorts in a stack? Do some smaller eye distorts and put them 10 times, 15 times behind each other. It suddenly looks like it's smearing. And with this technique, you suddenly can start to experiment. Don't even eye distort your RGB, but even the distortion channel. Now it's getting a bit slower and you get a different kind of look out of it. You get a very special look, and you even can change the strength of your horizontal or vertical distortion by just color grading your red horizontal or green vertical distortion map. What you also can do is just get a roto paint in, put it as a mask, like you multiply your map with it, just a slide of blur, and if you now go get a brush, you can start painting where your distortion is happening. Ah, come on, window, get away. You see? It's distorting down here. Okay, like this. Distortions are sometimes pretty heavy to calculate. If you're at some point done, you can bake this hard distortions in an ST map like showed before, and you save yourself quite a lot of render time. And if you now do this experimentation, we just go back and we have our noise, and let's do this with a vector blur. Oh, and the new vector blur, it's for me a bit complicated. If you press X and type in vector blur, you get this nice old-fashioned vector blur. I love it. It's so, you just have 3 or 2 points to point in. Okay, but going back, if you now put a slight vector blur and then you start putting like 10 vector blurs in a row, you get a pretty nice image. Okay, now let's do a bump map. So we just blur our image slightly, we do a difference, afterwards we just push it up, and now we look through our stacked vector blur. Somehow it feels now a little bit from the look like, you know, this Google Dream, Deep Dream images. It looks quite fancy. Creativity arises from a lack or material shortage. It's about limiting oneself. This limitation keeps you up to improvise. You can do this fly through completely without CGFX, just using a noise, a sphere, and a divide merge. So, let's take a look. If we want a POV of a smoke monster looking in front and flying through, do a sphere and push a camera just in the middle of it. Do the camera very wide angled and use a normal noise as a texture going from up to down. Then it moves from the pole to the sides and just behind you. Okay, we have here a little texture problem. You can solve this with this old times Photoshop make a seamless texture. You just transform your noise by the factor of your image size, do a rectangular map, and just mask it to the right side. So you have here, and as the noise is nicely endless, seamless, you just have to texture what's happening on that side. So doing it a little bit softer, you see you lose your hard edge. Let's see this in motion. It's working pretty nice. You already feel some kind of smoke flying through us. So what's bothering me is this little stretchy texture in the middle. As we know, it's in the pole of the sphere, it's in the upper part of our texture. So we could multiply it down, but maybe it isn't the best part. So if you use the gamma pins the 0 and the 1 and bulges in between. So the dense parts of a smoke keeps their density longer than the more transparent parts, and these lose their transparency much faster. So if you use a mask for the upper part and you then use your gamma down, you already see you may have a pinhole there, and then you just gamma down the whole texture. You see how the more transparent parts lose themselves faster. So this looks pretty promising. It already feels quite organic, even with only a noise. If we are then up for maybe a bit more, let's say, creepy version of this whole, let's turn your noise into a turbulence. Do a soft mask and then divide them both. I really love this trick for some creeping noise texture around the ground. You see it suddenly feels like it's moving forward. And with this noise divide trick, you really get a beautiful organic feeling. Important to push creativity is no time pressure. You know that after a 10-hour shift, you possibly won't find a creative solution to your problem, even if you try to force it. Creativity might rise in times when you are bored and your brain just starts traveling. There are some beautiful structures hidden somewhere behind the noise. And it's only a few notes away, so let's see how to do this. If you get a noise and do very hard erode, so you put it on something like 80 and go on Gaussian, and afterwards you just go over with an emboss. Actually, what you see is a first gray image, but here there's something nicely hidden. If you put your black point on something like 4.95, you see there are some beautiful, it looks almost like water or metal. So let's play an experiment with this trick. Just make your noise more horizontally stretched and distort maybe an image with it, and then multiply your image with it to get a little bit of shading. So you get a quite interesting point of structures, quite out of nowhere, out of the noise. You can even get something like caustics looking like. If you go on your octaves in the noise on 1, put in your emboss the emboss type to effect and the edge detector to simple, you find some pretty nice caustics looking style. If you now change your Z in your noise, it starts to move. Let's keep creative with this type. What can we do? Actually, you can get beautiful structures out of it. You see, if I change the size of the emboss, it gets pretty something like veins looking, or like some neural structures. You can change your noise from turbulence to different sizes, and you even can, if you go with your noise like a vertical stretched, you can get something like, this could look like thunders or lightnings. Being creative is like recombining existing resources and forces. The stuff you find, it has always been there. It's nothing new, but it was just combined in a different way by you. Okay, so this is gonna be a pretty fast one. If you have a matte painting and want to get your sky moved, use the skew X. Have your pivot along the horizon, and by skewing, the skies in front, close to you, moves much faster than the clouds near the horizon. A pretty approach to do volume raise is just get a roto and multiply it with some noise. Push the volume raise on. Okay, then you have a generated volume ray. Now with your noise, change the seed, like with the Z, or your scale of the noise, and you suddenly get this beautiful volume raise structures. You then position it in your image just like a texture. Sometimes I use it on cards in 3D space, and then you have a beautiful flight through, and you have them like really sitting in your scene. Ask yourself, what's there new to learn? Being curious is something elemental to creativity. Being open-minded for the new, so you just can make new cross connections. A big learning point for me was to see behind the horizon of our VFX work. Not to see the shot only in a loop, but trying to understand all the other beautiful crafts that are needed to make a movie. Understanding the story behind your shot is just essential. If there's a script you are allowed to read, use this chance. It can be such a profit to understand the emotions and feelings of the writer. Understanding what your shot means to the whole story. try to think like a DOP. When you have a locked camera, it might really help your shot moving it in post and having in mind, what would a DOP do? Is your actor moving? Try to follow him with a lag of reaction time. Check the cut if all other shots are a handheld and a VFX shot suddenly are locked. It would feel like a magician always pointing for attention when he's doing a trick. Like, why not grab a shot out of the cut and track it? Like, then you even have the handwriting of the DOP doing his camera work. Check out for the cut of your sequence. It might give you a lot of information for solving your comp problems. Maybe there is an element you can reuse in your shot. Check your shot not only in a loop, but in the real cut too. Does it suddenly feel completely different? Maybe your attention is going to different parts now. As editors like to cut into motion, think about this when adjusting your post-camera move. So it continues the motion from the shot before or following. We sometimes tend into too much logical thinking. If you have a shot and the light and the BG plate is coming that way and this part is then in the shadow, if there would be an actor, the director or the OP might place an extra light to brighten the action up. Or if the actor with the special makeup is hidden behind the smoke lingering in front of his face, maybe the director would ask to blow the smoke away on set just to see the $10,000 of special makeup. And last but not least, as I said in my last talk, directors love animals. So if you want to place some Easter eggs in your shot, some hidden animals might do the trick. Love what you're doing. This is such a beautiful profession we are all up to. We are allowed to do films, and this is beautiful. We are now in the end. A big thanks for watching, and a big thank you to the Foundry team for making this possible, and I really feel honored to make this talk.